All right, guys, we have Donald Trump going live in about an hour and 15 minutes. But before then, I want to break down the history of the Federal Reserve. All right. On these lives the past couple of weeks, I've been talking about this. The Fed is at the forefront of all of the news right now. Bill Pulte, Jerome Powell, Donald Trump. Everyone's talking about the Fed. Well, obviously Jerome is. But you have all these entrepreneurs now and real estate guys like Grant Cardone constantly tweeting out, crapping all over the Fed. We have guys like Thomas Massey, Republican from Kentucky, who is conservative and basically a libertarian who wants to get rid of the Fed. The Fed might be audited now, according to Scott Bessent. So the Fed is at the front of the news. Obviously, Jerome Powell did not cut rates. So this is where the focus is. And for people who don't know about the Fed, how they came about, when they were created, what their role is. Again, I've talked about it here. I've had tweets about it. The Federal Reserve is not federal, and they don't have any reserves. This is an AI-generated video, I'm assuming, that breaks down kind of the scam of the Fed. I'm going to start here, play this short clip, and then I have a series of posts that we're also going to look at. So stay tuned. Let's listen to this and discuss the history of the Fed.
Jekyll Island, November 1910. 7 bankers meeting in secret to create America's central bank. We just can't call it that.
The 1907 panic nearly destroyed us. Banks failed, fortunes vanished.
We want to control America's money supply, create booms, trigger busts, and profit from both. And how will we do that? We'll create money from nothing, loan it to the government, and charge interest. Legal counterfeiting, my friends. But there's a cost. Every dollar we print steals value from existing dollars. It's a hidden tax that flows directly to us. And it gets worse. If we ever get off the gold standard, governments can print money for wars. Endless wars become possible and profitable.
Since Americans hate central banks, we'll call it the Federal Reserve. Sounds governmental, doesn't it?
It's not. The president will appoint board members, but we'll pick who he appoints. We'll have 12 regional banks. Looks decentralized, democratic even, but New York banks control them all. That's us.
You're probably wondering how we're going to get this through Congress.
December 23rd, 1913. Most of Congress home for Christmas. Perfect timing for passing unpopular legislation. I'll publicly oppose our own bill in Congress. They'll pass it thinking they beat Wall Street. We'll fund university chairs, write the textbooks. They'll teach our system as economic science. Beautiful. Every American born after this will inherit debt on money we created from nothing. Generational servitude. The Federal Reserve. Not federal, no reserves. But everyone will think it's their government protecting them.
Good afternoon.
What a way to end it, just with Jerome Powell. Oh my. All right, guys. Let's start there. Whoops. Let me share my screen and put some other stuff here on the screen for you. KK. Let's get it. It's not just the Fed that was started in 1913, but a lot of things were. I think 2 dates stand out in my eyes when discussing the history of money and the history of the economy in America. That first date is 1913, that first year. If you're taking a look at the screen, it wasn't just the Fed that started 1913, the IRS, income tax, 1913, the Rockefeller Foundation, 1930, American Cancer Society, ADL, Warrenburg, linked to the Rothschild, install central banking. 1 year later, World War I happens. You know that world wars are money generators. The military industrial complex makes an insane amount of money. This year was when a lot of the corruption happened. Read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Robert Kiyosaki does a good job in that book breaking down the history of taxes. Most of the taxes that were supposed to be levied on just rich people and were supposed to be temporary are now taxes that the average person pays, and they're getting up to insane amounts, close to 40% in some cases, In Canada, it's even worse. In California, it's disgusting. Before 1913, basically none of that really existed. Why is that? Let's just keep going. 1912. This is where the real conspiracy starts. The Titanic sinks. What the hell does the Titanic have to do with any of this? Well, just stay on board. No pun intended. So, on board, John Jacobs, Astor V, Benjamin Guggenheim. Yes, guys, that's an actual last name. Isidor Strauss. All wealthy, all opposed the creation of a central bank. Who owned the ship? JP Morgan owned the ship. He canceled last minute. They didn't. The resistance sank. The system rose. Right after that, the Fed was started. JP Morgan, why is he an important figure in this whole situation here? Well, JP Morgan lent the banks gold, basically bailing them out back in the day. So what happens when you're one of the wealthiest people on the face of the planet? Maybe he was the wealthiest at the time. I don't know, probably top 5 or top 3. Well, what happens when you bail out the actual government? You have a lot of leverage. So, a year later, private banking cartel now controls money, America's money. They print the money. The Fed is in charge of printing the money. They are in charge of things that dictate how the economy is going, how the housing market's going. And again, nobody voted for them. They are not federal. They don't have any reserves. They are a private institution. Bruh. So you owe. The dollar became a tool and your time became their interest. Warburg and the Rothschild influenced. Paul Warburg wrote The Fed Plan, a German Jewish banker tied to the Rothschild network. There's a lot of stuff that's going on here. 1913, the IRS is born. 1913, Rockefeller Foundation. We all know John D. Rockefeller. Some people learned about him in school, some people didn't. A lot of conspiracies with that guy. But just keep it moving here, guys. This is Grok. The Federal Reserve, while publicly overseen. All right, guys, this is Grok themselves saying that the Fed is corrupt. While publicly overseen, is owned by private member banks that profit from its operations via capped dividends. Critics like Rothbard argue it enables fractional reserve banking, creating money from thin air, fueling inflation, a hidden tax eroding public wealth while benefiting financial elites. This user asked Grok, what is the alternative to this corrupt system? One word answer only. Grok's response was Bitcoin. This is why we're here, guys. This is the whole point. This is what we're trying to get across. Fractional reserved banking is when you deposit $1,000 to a bank. The bank then takes that $1,000 and loans out $10,000. So basically, that is another way in which money is created in thin air. And that is why when run on the banks happen, quote unquote, a run on the bank, when enough individuals go to a specific bank to withdraw their money, you then see the banks collapse. This happens with regional banks. This happened in 2008. And this is why free market capitalism does not exist in America, because the government picks and chooses which one of those banks are actually going to fail or which ones that they are going to basically prop up and not allow free markets to happen. What do we see recently under the Biden administration in 2022/23, I believe it was, when banks started to go over? Well, they reached out to who? Jamie Dimon and JP Morgan to swallow up some of those banks. So instead of going under, why don't you just take all of them? And why don't you get too big to fail as JP Morgan? That's the exact reason why free market capitalism does not exist in America. It's pick and choose. It's corporate cronyism. They're picking what banks are going to survive and making those banks too big to fail. If you see what's happening in Argentina right now, it's not that. And that's my biggest criticism of our system here. And I wish Donald Trump did more to try to rectify this. But I guess bro just wants to see big gains and less tension on American soil. He's causing tension elsewhere globally with tariffs, but that's only short term in order to negotiate. But I guess he doesn't want any friction internally. He just wants to get things done. I get it, but at the end of the day, I thought he was going to do more. It is what it is. Let's just keep it moving. Estimated number of U.S. home buyers and sellers actively in the housing market. Okay, let's listen to this. U.S. housing market now, 508,000 more home sellers than there are buyers. That's the most sellers have outmatched buyers in over a decade. Who do you think is the cause of that? Who do you think is to blame for that? Well, if we go to Bill Pulte, who is involved in this administration, who trying to pass laws and is passing laws, making it easier for individuals to buy houses using their previous rent payment history or even using digital assets like Bitcoin and Ethereum now. Bill Pulte commented, said, compared to President Trump's first term, mortgages are now double the cost of Joe Biden and Jerome Powell. It is crushing Americans' ability to buy a home. Jerome Powell must lower rates now. He said that this morning, and he didn't lower rates. We have to wait till September in a couple weeks to see if he will. In my estimation, Jerome Powell for sure will. The entire world now is basically telling this guy he needs to get off his ass. So, just keep it moving. In 1964, the minimum wage was 5 90% silver quarters. Could you imagine? In 2024, 90% silver quarters has a value of $35. Is $35 your minimum wage? Of course not. We don't need a minimum wage. We need a sound currency. It's probably why Grok's response to this was Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is a sound currency. It's capped in supply. The Fed can't print more of it. We need something. If you don't think the answer is Bitcoin, it's obviously something in crypto, because this is why cypherpunks were a thing. All these individuals in the 80s, the 90s, Hal Finney, Adam Back, the community of individuals like that who started Bitcoin, most likely, I'm sure it was a group of those guys who started Bitcoin. Hal Finney, Adam Back, who created Hashcash in 1997. I don't think people realize how deep the ties of crypto runs, guys. Cryptography's been around for a while. The concepts of this have been around since the 70s, right? So cypherpunks, who were these individuals? They were individuals that were libertarian in nature, that wanted to push back on an ever-growing digital architect that was inevitably going to enslave everybody and control our money. We have the guys, whoever started Bitcoin, Hal Finney, Adam Back, there's a plenty of guys I'm also not mentioning as well. You know, a list of guys. Even Vitalik, you know, Brian Armstrong, in the early 2000s at this point, the 2010s, you know, when we saw Coinbase and Bitcoin and Litecoin and XRP and all these responses basically from that community stemming from the 80s and the 90s of individuals who just wanted to create a sound money system that was controlled by the people and not a government. Why would they think that? Because the Fed. If the Fed didn't exist, we wouldn't need any of this. If the Fed didn't exist, Bitcoin wouldn't be around. That's probably a fact. If the Fed did not exist and we had sound money that wasn't controlled by a private institution that nobody voted for, then we wouldn't need technology like this. But clearly we do. Fiat currencies have a life expectancy of basically like 100 to 250 years. If you look at where the US dollar's at, it's not looking good. Since the creation of the Fed in 1913, over 95% of the dollar has lost its value. In the past 5 years alone, and you can look at this in the Truflation Index, Anthony Pompliano has talked about this countless times over the past couple months. Since 2020, the dollar has lost 30% of its purchasing power. Since 2020, guys, that's 5 years ago. That's absolutely insane. It's basically saying $1 5 years ago is now worth 70 cents. So, and again, the big beautiful bill addressed a lot of things, but Trump is spending a shit ton of money to be able to achieve what he wants to achieve. And you zoom out a little bit, most of those trillions are being printed over the next 8 to 10 years. So what can you guarantee? Over the next 8 to 10 years, your money is going to continue to be devalued. No matter how much Trump gives you back in taxes or collecting via revenue from tariffs, it doesn't matter because your money is still going to be devalued. So if you want to store that money or hold it long term, why would you do that? The dollar? You wouldn't. You would do it in something like a Bitcoin, like what Grok said. So just wanted to show you guys some of this. 99% of its value, the dollar's lost. Debt became endless. The middle class has been squeezed. War became constant. Global banking became expanded. Now you have entire nations that are completely controlled by the IMF, a global central bank, basically. We even saw El Salvador pay back a lot of their debts to the IMF because of what they're doing with Bitcoin. But then what happened afterwards? The IMF basically said, yeah, you got to stop how much you're buying. Like, it's insane. They want a complete grip over the entire world's financial system. It's not just an American thing. It is a global thing, guys. Insane. Donald Trump is going live in less than an hour now, folks. When that video pops up on YouTube, I will be covering it here live. Just wanted to pop in real quick, talk about the Federal Reserve. Jerome Powell might be out soon. Who knows? Scott Bessent supposedly will not be the one replacing him. Trump has 4 individuals in mind. Talked about it yesterday on the Squawk Box. We'll see what happens. Those individuals are going to be replaced. The Fed chairman that just stepped down last week. So there is an open position on the board. One of those 4 guys are going to be filling it, but who knows? One of those 4 guys could also be the new Fed chair here pretty soon. I don't think Jerome Powell is going to last till December, November. I mean, he probably will. He said he intends it. It's been 4 years now, close to 4 years now at this point, and and then his term is going to be over. I mean, we want the guy gone. Impossible job he has. But man, all the numbers were there for this guy to do a rate cut. Every single stat was there, and he didn't do it. So it's clearly becoming political at this point, and it's stifling the administration's growth. And nobody wants to see that. We're already seeing phenomenal numbers. So if you want to continue in that direction, you got to cut the rates, big guy. That's what we're seeing. All right. This is the Coin Zone. I'm Crypto with Paul. Make sure to check out our video that just came out yesterday. I'll pull it up for you real quick. All right. We just dropped a video. Donald Trump, guys. Look at that. We already got a good amount of views in one day. You guys got to go watch this. Trump is going all in on ETH, guys. All right. World Liberty Fi is really going hard. If you want to understand exactly what's going on, exactly what Trump is doing with Ethereum, with World Liberty Financial, go watch our last video. And if you haven't subbed yet, go sub, because I'm coming live for you guys here every single day. We got these educational videos every day. All right. Not every day, like every other day, something like that. But listen, guys, we're out here. All right. Giving you the info you need. If I wasn't here, who would you be listening to right now? I don't know. I don't know you. But hopefully you're here because you like this. Right? Great. All right. Well, I will see you guys soon at 4:30 Eastern. When Donald Trump goes live, we'll see if he discusses crypto. If not, probably going to discuss tariffs or something like that, which will have an impact on the market. So stay tuned. We will be back here shortly. Like I said, guys, this is the Coin Zone. I'm Crypto with Paul. See you guys again in a bit.